Okay, now we're recording. Okay, so to reiterate what I said, we're doing 8x8x16. So today is the first day of our 16-week class, which is Csec 252, which is our programming. Tomorrow will be the first day of our ethical hacking and countermeasures class. So we're going to do programming first, but I'm going to go over just the generics for this semester. You should have everything out there for your books and everything. So the nice thing about 252 is you don't have to buy any books. All the material is going to be out there for you. The first 3 weeks are W3 schools, HTML stuff. You're going to see a whole bunch of stuff start popping up in the course documents as I load things for later weeks. But the first 3 weeks are all just HTML and getting to know HTML, which a lot of you probably already know, but because it's one of the most common things that people attack are websites and web servers, that is what our first 3 weeks is going to be. So does anyone have any questions before I get started on other things about, let me go and look. Let me just go ahead and I'll share my screen with you guys. So this is the one that we're going to be doing. All right, so this is our first one. I'm just on the announcements. And like I said with my usual ones, if you have a problem, tell me immediately. Keep track of your due dates on your syllabus and course calendar. Now, you will notice that because it's a 16-week course, it's a little bit longer than usual because 16 weeks. So I just blacked out the Monday, Wednesday, Friday so it wouldn't confuse everybody. Then because it's so long, we have spring break smack in the middle and then final project. Now, I hope you guys have read your syllabus, but I also know all of you have full-time jobs, so you may not have read the syllabus. This class, what'd you say?
What's the syllabus?
Ha 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 ha, I missed you so much. Syllabus, yes. Anyway, so syllabus is out there where it always is. One thing you will notice is that Csec 252 is drastically different than the rest of your other classes because this is what I like to consider a practicum type class. So you do not have written tests for this class. Let me show you. I'll share the screen on the syllabus. So also note my office hours, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And this on our Tuesday, Thursday class, we're at only 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So it's 1 hour less. There's our learning course outcomes, but this is what I want you guys to pay attention to. Weekly assignments and weekly projects, 30%, 30%, 40% final projects. You only have 3 areas where you're going to be graded, and it is all practical use areas. So please be aware of that. Your stuff does count for more, but I think you'll like it more because it's all stuff that you're going to have a lot more time for because it's over the entire semester. The final project will be, you'll have like a full 3 weeks to play around and work on that. And all of this stuff for the whole semester will be building up to things that you can use for that. So, oh, and yeah, I am so sorry about how expensive that is. It is, honestly, it's the best stuff that you can get. The nice thing is you guys get a free certified ethical hacker exam voucher, which is insanely expensive out of that. So if you think about how much you save on that part of it, then that part is nice. And the other nice thing, and this is more of I'm a nice teacher thing, I am not going to make the certification your final. You can take that as you want. You get the certificate to do it for you. I would like to know when you guys take it what you get, just because I want to be like, yay. But that is not going to be your final. You will have just a written final. instead of a, guess what, now you have to stress for a certification exam. We're not going to do that. Okay, so be aware the 30, 30, 40, all right? And then I will show you, sorry, got to switch back. Hi, I don't know if you guys have met her. This is Dot. Okay, excuse me, Dot. She's like, well, that was rude. For our assignments, so what I did for these, because it was a little bit irritating when I was doing it, when I was looking at how some of the other stuff was set up, I did not like it. So what I did was, to make it a little easy for you guys, is I broke it out in 3-week chunks. So week 1 through week 3 is your HTML. Here you go. All your reading assignments are on W3 Schools. I highly suggest using Notepad+ as your beginning HTML editor. Technically, you can use anything you want to. So if there's one that you're just in love with, go for that. But this one's free, and it's one that I've used a lot. And one of the nice things I like about Notepad++ is it's very customizable, and it puts out different colored things and it has the line readings, and it's just really nice. Here are your deliverables, and you'll see down here are your due dates. And you'll notice you do not have any deliverables for this week, okay? So yeah, it's you'll see when we go through, I'll be going through the W3 stuff with you in just a second we'll talk about it. And we're just starting at the ground level, because one of the things that I learned was there's a lot of people that assume that they know what the best HTML is, but they don't really ever have a good foundation. They don't ever see how it works. What they see is what those crap ones that build the HTML for you do things, and really they put a lot of bloat in there. So we're gonna go all the way from the bottom with the text, and that's so you can see exactly how things work. So okay, your first one is called an HTML tag list, and this is what I'm talking about with this is when you go into let's see. Do you see this example here where it's talking about the HTML doc type, HTML head, title, header, body, H1P, all that? What I'm gonna want, and I'll tell you how many of these you're gonna need to add, is I'm gonna want exactly what you would use in a normal HTML page. And then by each of those tags, I'm gonna want you to explain just a short sentence what that tag is. That's all it is. Not very hard. That's why it's only 50 points. So that's your first one, and it's not due until the 28th. And again, we're doing Sunday because that seems to work best with everyone here. And then we're just going to do HTML web design, and that one is up there, and we will talk more about that as the time comes. You can use Visual Studio if you're used to it and you already have it. I love Visual Studio. It is actually what I used when I did C# ASP.NET. I love that it has all the different colors and the red. I absolutely love Visual Studio. If you have access to it, that's great. Yeah, exactly. There you go. B makes stuff bold. Yes. So yeah, if you have Visual Studio and you want to use it, that is just fine by me. It's just that I know some people don't have access to and don't want to pay for or buy Visual Studio. So Notepad++ is a good, would you stop? Say hi again, Dot. Yes. Then you can do that for free. Okay. Now, before I get into the W3 Schools information, I'm glad my phone went off because I need to remember to mute it. Is there any question that anyone has about materials Just hit stop share so I can see the chat better. It's about materials, about course registration, course setup, anything like that before we get into the actual meat of the class. Now is the time. Nope, we're gonna wing it. But no, if it's a question that you have specifically about tomorrow's class, where there's a lot of stuff that I will walk through how to register and get into everything on tomorrow's class with you, because that the EC Council stuff is, it's a different setup. So we can do that. Also, before I forget, they reset all your virtual boxes and they are ready to go. So you will have access to those. They have been reset to that default MS Press 1 password. So you can all go and get in. And I will suggest tomorrow when we go through those, and this you guys will love. We do have the CyberQ labs and stuff that you guys will be doing, but I have labs that I have created for myself that we will use Callie on. And I think you guys will have some fun with those. And I think the best thing that we can do, and I think tomorrow we'll do this, we'll go get out on your VMs and we'll download Kali Linux and we'll make you a nice Kali Linux VM and you can run the labs that I suggest on there. And the first one that we're going to do is a steganography lab, which I think you guys will have fun with. So, okay. Anyway, onward to HTML, unless anyone has any questions about anything else. Yes, no? Gonna assume you're okay. All right, we're good. Let me share my screen on Chrome. All right, so out there on assignments, I'll just show you where it is. Week 1, HTML. If you have not done it, that Notepad++, unless you have another editor, like Gwen said, that you like, go ahead, download that. Let me open up Notepad++, and I will show you what that looks like on mine. Now I have mine set up slightly differently because I like the dark background, light text. So as you can see, it just has the light text. So you can see things a little easier. For me, because I've done so much coding, it just reduces the eye strain. And you can do that on a lot of them. You can switch it so it has a black background. It's up to you. Next, let's go over here. Let's go out to that. It's under reading assignments. It's the HTML tutorial. Now we're just going to start from the top. And then we're going to go to dark Notepad++. Is that what you were asking about, Mike? So I can show you where to set that up if you want me to. Okay. Hold on 1 second and I'll get you back there. Because it used to be in a different spot. But it's under... where did they put that? I think it's under... Is it under view? I also use word wrap and I highly recommend that unless you're a fan of having to scroll forever. It's not the character panel. As you can see, there are a lot of different options that you can do on here as well. There's a settings one, but I just have to remember where it is. I think it's under... Oh, that settings preferences. And then you see where it says general editing dark mode. That's where you go. And you can customize all of the different tones and stuff under here too. This is really nice for all sorts of different things. So that didn't used to be there, but it was a much requested change. And I got to tell you, it really makes a big difference. So I don't understand how he could use light mode. My brain would just fry. Like I even had to get glasses with that blue light stuff on them so that, yeah, and you can do 80s neon, you can do, whatever makes you happy, as long as your, eyes don't feel like they're going to bleed by the end of the day. So mine, I usually do, I like Visual Studio's dark mode. That's actually my favorite because it does like nice black. And then depending on the different types of tags, it does different colors. It's fantastic. So, okay. So this is an example of a basic HTML page. So it has everything, not okay, I won't say every web page, but most basic pages, you'll see a doc type and it'll tell you what type of page it is. This is an HTML page. And then head is your heading, title is your page title. Anytime you see that slash there, so you have there the beginning and the end, that's what that suggests. So you have this one's your beginning tag. And then when you put that slash right there, that's your end tag. Now you have to create one in the front and one in the back. So you put things between them. So your title page or your title goes here, then your title, and then your title end tag. So hopefully this makes sense to everyone, because I think most of us have sorry, I'm just catching some of the comments there. Most of us have done a little bit of programming, so we see that we know what we're talking about with the slash there. So there's your title, and your title goes in the head, and then underneath the head you have your body. And whenever you see the H, those are the different headings. There are different types of headings. There's headings 1, 2, 3. It goes down in a whole level. P is indicative of a paragraph. And those are some just basic ones that are in your body. And as you can see, there's your ending HTML thing. Now they do have this nifty little thing that you can do if you want to see. It's just basically kind of a little simplified version of what it's like to use Visual Studio. So on the left, you have all of your stuff, and on the right, you have what it looks like. So if you do your heading and you want to change this to boom, this is a new heading. So this is just a super simplified way to do that. So that is what your basic HTML doc type looks like. I should hope that most of us know that HTML is hypertext markup language. I'm pretty sure most of us have heard that. Most websites aren't just pure HTML anymore. They are written in HTML, but they are HTML5, which is secured. If you see a straight HTML website, you should be immediately sus. It is not a good thing. And if it is like that, there's definitely some issues. So here is an explanation. And remember me talking about that assignment? This is a very good example of what I want. So that tag defines the document. This is the element, which is the root of the HTML page. You don't have to write it exactly like this. I'm aware that you guys are not robots. You can write it just the way a normal human being would. Which one is this? That's the head element that has like your metadata. Now, if you go out and look what want to see what a metadata looks like. Okay. Here are some different ones that you'll see. You see how it says meta and it says UTF-8. A lot of times that's your character set that you'll see in there. And there's all sorts of websites out there that'll tell you. Sometimes you'll get 1 or 2 things in your metadata. Sometimes you'll get an entire paragraph in your metadata. It really does. Sorry, I just read your comment. It really depends. And sometimes, yes, you will see some very, very funny jokes where they write things if you go out and look in the code. And that's when you know you've got someone that's very sarcastic. So when I'm talking about HTML tags, these are tags This is the tag name. Here's your beginning tag, and an ending tag has that slash in it. This is your example of a heading paragraph, and the BR, they don't say what it is there. BR just means break. This, they're talking about different notepads, and you can use text editors and notepads. Basically, it's a TXT file. You just save it as an HTML file, and you can open it in any web browser. So technically, you can use that. I don't like those as much as Notepad++ because you just don't have as much of the extra stuff that's meant for coding. Okay, so in here, we're talking a little bit about the doc type declaration. We're working with HTML, but you'll see doc type declaration on all sorts of other things. I can't remember in Google Chrome what the, what is that called? Stop sharing, so I can't remember what it is. There is pretty much all of them have an option for you to open a window that gives you the source code. In Chrome, what is that? Let's see. That's helpful. More tools. Control-Shift-L, I think is what it says. So let's see if we can do that successfully. So first, it's not going to do that. You can do Control-Shift-L, or you can go in. No, I don't want incognito mode. More tools, developer tools. And you should be able to see over here, as you can see, there's a ton more. Can you guys see that section that opens up in the right? Yeah, the dev tools. Okay, good. You can see this. All right. So the nice thing about that is, as you can see, yes, this one happens to be an HTML, and it's got your all sorts of your stuff. Here's your head. And if you hit that, remember what I was talking about with the head data having a ton more metadata? Well, there you go. And you can see there's a whole bunch of scripts sitting in here.
How did you open that again?
This one, you go into more tools and then developer tools. And I know there's another button combination for it, but it was not working on mine. So Control, yeah, it says Control Shift. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Yeah, it looked like an L. It's Control Shift I. Apparently, it just looked different. So yeah, Control Shift I will also open it. I know I've accidentally opened it a number of times. So that is something that I actually used frequently when I was starting out, just to look at how different things were opened. So see, this is how this looks with this website. And in order to open that heading, you see the three dots there. You just hit those and it'll pop everything down right here. So I used that a lot when I was first starting HTML. And I just went out and looked at sites that I thought looked cool and was like, huh, okay, so that's what that is. And a lot of times I was like, I have no idea what that is. And then I went out and searched for what does this tag mean. We're not going to go too much into scripts yet, obviously, because they're their own thing. So remember me talking about headings? Each heading has its own level. Now see, this is what they're talking about. Basically, the higher or the lower the number, the higher the size. So heading 1 is your biggest one, and then downward, so forth. That's the nice thing about it, is that it's numeric, and it works basically the same within if you're using a table. So that is nice on that as well. Okay. So we just talked a little bit about this. I shouldn't be losing anybody. Is everyone still with me, I'm assuming? Yes, we did. All right. Attributes. So attributes are elements that are within there. So the most common ones are the ahref and this one, which is the image source. These are the links that you use. This one is for websites. This is for linking images. And then, like it says here, all HTML elements can have what are called attributes. They just provide additional information about your elements. And they are always specified in the start tag. So on this one, you see the A and then href, which is the URL. And that just means, okay, ahref equals that goes to your website. And then this portion right here. So you see there the link here, and then with this section here is what's actually going to show on the link. So hopefully that makes sense. That's one of the most common ways to make links. Then an image link, this one, and the nice thing about this one is they're also using the different, what do they call those? The width and the height attributes are also within that. So as you can see, they have the first one is your image source, and within those quotes, you go out and you tell it, okay, and this one's super easy, but a lot of times you'll see a lot of like slashes because they're putting those into subfolders and things like that. And then within those quotes, that's your image, and then you want to say, okay, the width of this image is 500, the height of this image is 600, and then there you go, there's your image. Okay. Now the alt attribute. A lot of people have ignored the alt attribute, but I can tell you right now, it is insanely important if you are going to be doing any sort of website that you want to be, well, you don't want to be sued for. First of all, the alt attribute works with things like screen readers for people who are blind. It will read the alt attribute as a description to that person. So the key for alt attributes isn't just to make them some random thing. It's supposed to be a descriptor of what that image is. I went through all sorts of classes for getting certified when it comes to making your websites accessible. And if you're going to be working for major companies or anything having to do with education, you need to know about that. There are all sorts of things like it's called WebAIM. There are all sorts of organizations and things that will help you do that, but do not underestimate a good alt tag. So girl with jacket, it's simple. It doesn't have to be huge, but remember those text readers, that's what they're going to be reading. So you'll see that alt girl with jacket. And when they read that, they aren't going to see this image. It's going to read girl with jacket back at them. So just remember that. Yes, ease of use. Another thing to keep in mind, which we'll go into later, is colors. No matter how cool some of the colors look, there are certain laws about contrast for visible attributes. Now, there are some really cool contrast checker programs on the web out there that you can just go out and plug in what you want, and it'll say, yes, this is something that you can legally use, or no, technically you are not within legal parameters. I highly suggest you use those. Okay. Headings, we just went over this. It's just breaking them out. Paragraph. So each paragraph should be surrounded with that P and then the slash P. So each one that you want to separate out. So it has a lot of lines, but it doesn't matter. You can put that in however you want it to, and it's going to look like that. So remember that when you're writing in HTML, what it's actually looking at, rather than all the spaces here, it's actually looking at these. It doesn't care about the other stuff. While that stuff might make it easier for you to read, it's not going to do anything so much for the throughput on the end. Okay. Right, HTML style attributes. You'll see that style equals, and this one is, a lot of times you'll see this is the super simplified one. But now most sites use what are called cascading style sheets, which are down a little bit further. We will get to those in a minute, but for the super simplified thing, we will talk about these from here. So let's talk about background color. So you have your body style and then background color. There you go. This is an example. Powder blue. And there are some of them where they don't use that. They'll use what's called a hex code. And those look like these. See those little hash, and then those are hex codes. So a lot of times you'll see those instead. And so because depending on some places, it's like, I don't know what that is, but if you put a hex code in, it's a lot easier for it to understand. So you can say, okay, I want the background color this, on this heading, I want the paragraph this. You can also say that you want the text this color, and you know, do all sorts of things with that too. All right. Next, we're on to text formatting. These are the basic elements for text formatting. And a lot of these probably should seem similar because Discord uses a lot of the same type of things. So bold, strong are basically, they're the same thing, bold and strong. I is italic, emphasized, mark, small, deleted, that's the ones that has like the slash through it, inserted, subscript, or superscript. So this is what these look like. Migraine inducing flag. Oh yeah, there are text, there are ways to do little like flashing and things like that, but they really try not to do that now because, you know, they don't want to put seizure warnings on websites now. So there are all sorts of ways to get around that. So okay, let's see. Let's say we want to also throw in, what else do we have here? We got subscript we have inserted. You can see what it does with the small. This is how I usually do this, just so I remember. And then I write between it, because otherwise I will run through and be like, why doesn't this work? And you can see it's slightly smaller than the other one in front of it. So I suggest messing with those, but in order to give yourself less of a migraine when you are going through and checking things, I usually do the beginning and end tag and then put the stuff between it, because I don't know how many times I've run through checking for mine and other people's code. And it's usually like, they'll have this whole thing and then they'll have like tons of stuff in between here, and they'll have a tag here and a tag here and a tag here. And they forget that this tag and then a tag down here, they forget a closing tag. And it makes you want to claw your eyeballs out after you've gone through it. So save yourself the pain and remember to do your start and stop tags.
So I've never had to write code, but from what I understand, the issue isn't writing code, it's figuring out where you fucked the code up.
Pretty much. Yes. Okay. Quotations. There are different types of quotes. There's what's called block quote, which is where they put that thing out here. Here, we'll see here. How it puts everything out over in the side. That's what's called a block quote. And a lot of them, you'll see Q, ABR, address site. A lot of quotes are actually done in block quote. Or you'll just see people for short quotes, they'll do the Q, which does this, which is just quote marks. You can do quote marks too. It just depends on how you want to do it. But this is just so you know what those mean. Comments. I cannot stress this enough. If you are going to be writing a web page for a project where there are going to be other people taking it up after you, please use comments. This right here is how you write comments. That section with the brackets and you write everything in there that you want the people to know about it. Like, I did this because XYZ, or this is because the client requested XYZ. That is to help the people that come after you. Or if you're writing it at 2 a.m. and you forget the next day, why did I do that? You have an explanation right there. Comments will save you.
Will we be using the comments when we do our assignments for you? Is that how you like? Because you said we turn
I
them in.
do like you won't have to do them until the very last one for HTML. But yes, if you have something you feel like you want to explain to me, put it in a comment. I am not offended by people adding extra comments in there at all. I actually had a professor that made me so frustrated with programming when I first started, because he told me my programming was, quote, too advanced, and flunked me on the assignment. I will not do that. If you come up and say, and you have the comments in there and you're like, I know we were supposed to do this, but I think this works better, even though it's a more advanced technique, I am not going to grade you down on it as long as you can explain why you did it to me. Okay? It is something that has been a pet peeve of mine ever since. He was also a bigot and he did not like women in general, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, comment, add your comments. And that's why you see how they do here. That's why you put those in there. Nobody will see that on the end result, but the people like me who are grading or working on it will get to look at this with that nice exclamation point and stuff wrapped around it, and we'll get to read it and go, oh, that's why it's there. Yeah, the same teacher actually told me, what are you doing in here? Women aren't any good in technology. That was actually my last straw. Yeah,
I was
no,
gonna say something, but even like I'm just
keep
like,
it to yourself. I know there's some choice language that I'm sure people want to say on there, but yeah, he was a piece of work. Yeah. So yeah, there are all sorts of things that you can put that on. And you can also comment out like this one. Say you have a section that you want to comment out that you were working on that you might want to use later, or something that you might want to add in later. You can also do what's called commenting it out, which is what they do here. And if you take these out, we can see that's what would have been there. So, you don't know, it can be for all sorts of things. It can be like, this is commented out with an explanation. This is for a future release. You know, they do that all the time in video games where they have things that are built in, frameworks that are built in for future content. They will put commenting out and things like that in there as well. Okay. Questions on commenting out before I get on to colors, and then I will stop because I think, well, no, we'll go over CSS a little bit, but that usually makes people want to cry when I get into that. So
I had a question for the quotations.
yes.
I just wanted to make sure like the usage of quotations is similar to that of like writing an English essay where you don't want to get flagged for plagiarism, or if you are taking information from another website or company, you quote it so that way you don't get flagged or sued.
So the rule of thumb that I was taught about quotations is within quotation marks, 1 or 2 sentences. If you have more than 2 sentences, you need to block quote it. That was my rule of thumb that I was taught by a very anal retentive literacy professor. So that has worked really well for me over the years. So what I usually go with is if it's more than like 2 long lines, I block quote it.
Sweet.
And that just has worked really well. And as for just like our papers, any quote that you put out there, these guys are not actually, you know, referencing this correctly. So we could always be like, boo, but the formatting that they did is okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, colors. So we talked a little bit about these. There are different types. We talked about hex, there's RGB, RGBA, HSLA. Hex is probably the most common. And then you can see this is, as you can see, they're using background color, and then they're using that. You can also use those hex codes for this. I personally prefer hex codes just because I've seen them used so much out there, and this is not always universal between different browsers, whereas the hex codes are. Background colors.
Wait, all tomatoes aren't red?
I know, it's terrible. This one, they're just using that same kind of thing. And there's people that would argue about what is Dodger blue. So yeah. And then now we're talking about text color. And this one, you can see this one, as you can see, remember we talked about the headings. Well, now within this headings, they're saying, okay, the headings, the style of that heading equals, and then they give it the color. The other thing that you can do on these headings, which they're not putting here, is they can also do style quotations with the color, and then you can also do things like the text size that we were talking about as well. But you can see how wordy these get very quickly. When you start adding all of this, think about adding that into every single line and how mudded up your HTML document's going to get. So that leads us into the next. And I got to tell you, I originally started let me go through and show you here. So this is what RGB looks like. And personally, doing RGB makes me want to myself, because you have to do with it in these 3. That's why I prefer hex, because this is what hex looks like. Much easier to remember. And this is what HSL looks like. As you can see, it's a number, another 3 numbers. So personally, hex, easier to find. And quite frankly, it's easier to copy paste as well. Okay. Now, one of the things that came in later is called cascading style sheets. And what this did was it basically created an entire sheet that took all of those little styles for each single line and said, okay, this goes here, and it put everything into one sheet so that it doesn't make you want to blow your brains out having to do everything on every single line of every single page. Whereas you could say, I want to do an entire website and say this particular attribute means this. So basically, the reason they said that here, and it's a nice explanation because originally I wasn't told this. So cascading here, it means the style is applied to a parent element, will also apply to all child elements within the parent. So if you parent element, so you set a color of like a body text to blue, all headings, paragraphs, and other text elements within that body will get the same color unless you put something in there to say why. So you can add a CSS in 3 ways. You can do what's called inline by using the style attribute inside the HTML elements, which is what we saw where each element was in there. You can do internal by using style element in just the head section. And then my personal favorite, which is called an external, which you use by linking an element into an external CSS file. And that's actually the most common way to do now, because when you're doing large sites, to do, if you make a change in your style on one page and you're not using an external linked page, you can change that style in your external linked page, and every single page with that same element will change. However, if you're using internal or inline, you have to change every single page. So that's why they went to external pages. It saves you a lot of time. So the first thing they're going to show you in order to how to do this is what's called inline, just because it's a little bit easier. So here's your inline, which puts it just straight in the line of the attribute. So this heading style equals color blue. This paragraph style equals color red. So does that make sense to you guys? Yeah, it looks like Gwen's our CSS person, so you've had experience with that. Yeah, I gotta say, when they came up with external cascading style sheets, I was in heaven, because forgetting if you've got 30 pages and you want to change one style attribute on every single page, it's a nightmare. Whereas with cascading style sheets, you just go in and change the external sheet. It's so much better. Okay, so this one is showing you the use in the head section. Let me show you here. So this one's saying, okay, I want the body to be in powder blue. I would like the headings, all headings with the H1. I want those to be blue, and all paragraphs I want to be red. And they're up here in the, you'll see the head, and then within the head, you'll see these style brackets. Now, and this probably is dating myself. I went through all different aspects of this as it came in. So when they came through, it was like, wow, this is so cool. Oh, but that's even more cool. Oh, but this is awesome. So it is much nicer. All right, so this one is going to show you what an external style sheet looks like. So on that, in your heading, you'll see your link, your style sheet name, and then the ref style sheet.css. Now, a lot of times on the big websites, the ones that have like hundreds of possibly thousands of pages, you can even see multiple cascading style sheets as well. Gwen, have you ever worked on any that had multiple CSS? Or just the one? You? Just the one. Okay. Yeah, they're usually it's the huge ones, like big knowledge bases and things like that I've seen that have more than one style sheet. So this is what that looks like. And the style sheet itself is where this is all written. So you don't see anything but the link to the style sheet. And the style sheet is right here. So the style sheet's honestly a lot of fun to write. And then you just save it as your whatever style, style.css. Make it something easy to remember that's named to style, because I've seen people name these all sorts of weird names trying to be cute, and then they can't find them. And it makes you just insane. So name it style CSS is probably the most common one. So you have your body right here, your H1, your P, and you can create specialized tags and do all sorts of really cool things within your style sheet. Now, someone had a question. Exactly. I have actually seen people with huge things like that, and they're like, no, which style sheet did that go to? It's nuts. Okay, so they're going to here they will talk about some different commonly used properties. So you have your color, what's called your font family, and font size. Now, this is where you get into those font family. If you ever use wingdings, I will hurt you. Just remember that. Also, nobody but serial killers uses Comic Sans. Also another thing. So you'll see like Verdina, blue, and then your font size. Red, Courier, 160. And then this is your explanation. So, and you can't tell I did a lot of web design. I've had so many arguments over color and font styles with people, it's not even funny. I actually had, I'm not going to say who or where it was, but I got in a 2-hour argument with a client over a 20% color difference in the color of red they wanted to use. 2 hours, I kid you not. And it was all
Did
over.
you tell them they were an idiot and wrong? I
basically said that, but it was all, no, you can't use that color because it was a accessibility issue. So I won, and I just had to repeat the same thing over and over again, and it was so frustrating. But it just seemed ridiculous to me that I was like, it's a 20% shade difference, and I don't think you want to get sued over it. So yeah. Okay, so borders. This is what it's talking about. You can put the little bitty borders around your stuff. Padding. Okay, padding is the space between text and borders. This is what it's talking about here. Your border padding on this one, 30 pixels, and then you have your 2 pixel. So it puts that big old chunk around there for the padding. That can be very important, having white space or negative space around your text or around your images. It can draw the eye in, or it can move it away from things that are not important. Using negative space is just as important as using colors appropriately. Margins. Here's an example. It just scoots it over. And then this one is, they have like a little external style sheet that you can use. And these are just different ways that you can put them in. This is a full link right here. This one is within the folder on a current website. It just depends. The pointers depend on where you're going. If you only have one within the same page, you don't need all the file slashes. If you have one that you're worried about them not being able to navigate within those slashes, use the full website. It just depends on where the websites are. Hi, Katie. Where the websites are stored and where they are going. This is Bonnie, and she's been very lonely, so. It depends on where you store it within what folder. So say you store all of your information for your website in the same folder. then you really only need this one. If you have multiple folders within the project, then you're going to need the slashes like that. If you're going between multiple websites, you're going to need the full link. Does that make more sense? Yes, I know. Depending on where she is, there's no cat. There's the cat. I do think it's funny. I kept doing that in one of my meetings the other day, and it seems to be the black cats that happens with the most, so I think it's funny. Okay, so there's a little summary down here at the bottom. So HTML, the CSS is where we're going to stop for today. And then we are going to move on to some of the rest of that tomorrow. Hi, Kimmy. So my suggestion is make sure you find and pick your, go back. Where is the, there you go. Pick your editor that you want to use. Like I suggested, Notepad++.
Comic Sans, got it.
No Comic Sans. Well, I guess your stuff, I guess you can use Comic Sans. That is a style choice, and you will probably get all sorts of interesting comments from me. Because don't forget, I did start out as an artist. So, and then, so I want you to go out and look over the stuff that's out there. If you want to look ahead in W3 and you have experience with it, please do. It's just HTML. I don't mind if people look ahead. But I do want you guys to have your HTML editor that you want to use for the next 3 weeks picked out before Thursday and installed. So you can use Visual Studio if you like that. You can use Notepad++. You can use a basic text editor and save it, whatever you want to do. But I suggest Notepad++, unless you have one you want. Now,
yeah, Notepad++ is downloaded, so that's what I'm using.
I highly suggest it. It's actually my favorite one that I've kept on my machines, besides Visual Studio. Now, are there any questions? I know this was just kind of a run through on some super basic stuff, but that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. Dreamweaver will give you a lot of bloat on stuff. In fact, it's one of those ones that that makes me twitch. So if you want to use it, you can, but you're going to have to fix a lot of stuff probably. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today. Tomorrow we will go over all of the 255 stuff and make sure everyone gets registered. And if anyone's still having problems, we'll go from there. So look through some stuff on your classes, and if you haven't purchased the books, make sure you get those purchased so we can do that. Okay. Anyway, you guys have a great night, and I will talk to you some more tomorrow.